we are working in therapy.
Hi, welcome everyone to the launch of the Water Spirits issue of Garland magazine. And I'm speaking to you from Naarm, Melbourne, the land of the Wurundjeri people. I pay my respects to elders past and present, and note that at this moment
Yeah,
we are in the season of look, which is the eel, where the eel is abundant, which is quite appropriate. We've had a number of stories in Garland about the eel, so it's a good time to be looking at this. This issue is dedicated to the memory of Susanna Wenger, who is a woman who saved the sacred groves of Asugbo. That is part of the issue. And I should note that it may seem unusual that we dedicate this issue to a white person in Africa, but it comes very much from the community of Asugbo who revere her as somebody who has helped save their traditions. So there'll be more about her in the issue as you discover how she's been able to save these very important this very important place for the gods and deities related to water in Nigeria. So this series storylines comes out of a sense that stories are so much part of what it is to be human, that they have connected humans and enabled societies to evolve over time and space, but they are, to an extent these days, suffering a deluge of information as we have many stories pervading our lives through social media and so on, that the bigger stories are often lost, and that it's in objects that we can look to find homes for stories that help us focus our attention on these stories. Objects like the ones you see behind me, and certainly the ones that I see in the background of where you are at the moment. And the first theme that we settled upon was around water spirits, because it was really the work of Tyson Yunkaporta, who features in this issue, who inspired the idea of story making. It was an exhibition of his at a local craft store, Mr. Kidley, which was about the rainbow serpent and its relation to laws of thermodynamics that pointed a particular path that seemed quite new and challenging. And we featured this in an issue which was a focus on China called Ancient Now, where a dialogue opened up between his view of rainbow serpents and the role of the dragon in China that we'll hear more about. And from that, Tyson and his partner Megan Kellerer then took a journey over 3 years talking to the makers of water spirits across the world that he features in his article. And it's really in the slipstream of that we look to the way in which objects can look at this particular dimension, which these days has quite significant geopolitical meaning, as Veronica Strang will observe in her article very much, which is partly to do with the way in which the serpent has become in the West a being that one must slay, one must vanquish in order to have dominion over nature, whereas in the East it's something to be revered as a symbol of power and to be respected. Of course, it's not always as clear-cut as that, but that's the broad sweep of it. So if we're to think about a different kind of geopolitical alignment that was to bridge East and West, part of it's to do with an understanding of an appreciation of the enduring meaning of this being in the human endeavor, particularly as we come across planetary limits through climate change. So it's my great pleasure to begin by inviting Veronica Strang to speak to her article, which was a glimpse of the great work that she's done on water beings in her publication. I'll just share the screen for you, Veronica, if you'd like to uh, tell us briefly about your approach through the otter dragon, assuming you can all see this now.
Thank you, Kevin. It's very early here in the morning, so I'll try to string a sentence. It's very lovely to meet you and to meet you all, actually. I think the issue looks absolutely beautiful and it's fascinating. And so I'm just going to say a little bit about the background of this research because it began, in fact, with the rainbow serpent in Australia, where I had the privilege of working with the Kunjun people up in North Queensland for many, many years. And I became fascinated by the rainbow serpent. And then I went to work in New Zealand for a decade and worked with a number of Maori iwis on water rights. And of course, they have these wonderful taniwhas, etc. And then the project just kind of grew and grew and grew and turned into this massive comparative study of water beings around the world, which is a bit unusual for anthropologists. You know, we normally sort of stick to one place, but there was so much in common with this huge family of water beings around the world because water, of course, being so central to people's lives. And what I discovered, of course, is that human societies have always had water beings, and they really are everywhere. And sometimes they're buried in history and what is now called folklore, but they're always there. And they're becoming increasingly important as societies struggle to to reconnect with rivers and water and the non-human domain. And so I've had the most amazing time doing this research. It's absolutely my favorite area of research because everywhere I go, I meet people and water beings that are totally fascinating. And this all came together. It took me years, of course, but it all came together in the book that's mentioned in the article in about water beings. And one of the things, of course, that everyone notices about them is they're fantastically beautiful and fascinating. And I was very fortunate to work with Reaction Press and to have 130 gorgeous images in the book. But I'm completely blown away by the images in this special issue of Garland. They're just fabulous. And I'm sure that's quite enough from me.
Oh, thanks very much, Veronica, and thanks for connecting us to Sasha Constable and the sea, the dragon, the otter dragon that gives it a place within the English context, within your local context as well, which is very special.
Yeah, no, that was absolutely lovely working in Dorset with Sasha. And it was a very exciting festival. And interestingly, I'm doing another project in Cambridge at the moment where they're talking about reviving a local water being. So these things have so much meaning to activists trying to improve our relationship with rivers. And I love working with artists. I do a lot of it. So it's very lovely to meet all of you.
Great. Thanks very much, Veronica. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Wanda Gillespie, who's with us, who's been a, a previous contributor to Garland and has very generously woven in the story of the Taniwha from New Zealand. I saw Wanda. Yeah, there you are, Wanda.
Hello, Kai, kia ora. Yeah, I really enjoyed writing this piece. I'm by no means an expert on Taniwha, but certainly growing up in Aotearoa in New Zealand, it's very much part of the consciousness there. Like as a kindergarten child, you learn there's a famous song about the Taniwha that every kid learns at primary school and kindy, and there's a lot of myths that are told to children around Taniwha, and it's definitely very much, yeah, part of the culture and consciousness. There's a lot of stories of Taniwha relating to waterways, lakes, oceans, and connected with specific iwi or tribes, Taniwha that have followed particular waka canoe from Polynesia down to New Zealand. Yeah. But there were lots of artists that I could have referenced in this piece. I kind of ended up going for the ones that had that whakairo wood carving background, where they would have been aware of the carving patterns that referenced the taniwha, the teeth of the taniwha. Yeah. Originally, I didn't put myself in it, and then my sister said, "Oh, come on." It's more interesting when there's a personal connection of how you've, found this path and interest in this. So, yeah.
Thanks very much, Wanda. And it's great that, you provide perspective as a carver yourself to the story. And clearly that is such an important symbol for carvers, given the sinuous nature of the form of the taniwha, but also its connection through Ngroma Riley about the local taniwhas of Tamaki Auckland as well. So seeing that's very much part of life in Aotearoa, New Zealand today.
Yeah, for sure. And I haven't got to read all the articles yet, but what I have read, I've really loved. It's really so inspiring to see the stories from everyone.
Great. Thanks, Wanda.
Yeah, thank you.
And while we're in Moana Oceania, we go to Solomon Islands, to Rodolfo Maggio. Greetings, where are you?
Hi, everybody. I am in Helsinki, so it's about
Early.
9. Yeah. I'm in Helsinki. The sun is shining, although it's still a little bit chilly. And so I take this opportunity to thank you, Kevin, for inviting me to give this contribution, because it's a very delicate subject, the relationship between the Solomon Islands and Taiwan and People's Republic of China, because when you do ethnographic research, you're dealing with local perceptions, but at the same time, whatever you write about these perceptions lends itself to be used in a much broader debate about interstate relationships between Taiwan and China. And so it's a very hot topic. And, I'm not a political scientist, and I didn't sign up to, be trapped into difficult political debates. But Garland gave me the opportunity to focus on the materiality of the object in itself and its beauty. That is a completely different way of engaging with this issue, because, when you deal with political debates, then you end up discussing things such as the riots that happened in Solomon Islands in November 2021, which were an absolute disaster for the country in terms of fiscal loss and loss of lives as well, and businesses. So it's a very tragic moment. But looking at this issue from the perspective of the Muzu Muzu dragon, which you see behind me, allowed me to see how these relationships between different cultures can also produce frictionless and aesthetically beautiful objects. So it was a much more soft and warm and positive way of engaging with this issue. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Rodolfo. And I must congratulate you on the number of languages that you greet the reader with. And I strongly recommend that everyone has a chance to listen to all the different versions of it on your article, but also for stepping out of your office and sharing with us a bit of the journey of the encounter with this creature and its maker.
Yeah, I'm a very eager enthusiast of language learning. I'm always trying to improve my proficiency, because I think it's part of the Colonizing Knowledge project. Yeah, I think it's important.
Thank you so much. And now we go to Diane Dempsey, who I see is here with Anita Jack, the daughter of Russell Jack, who has shared with us the part of the book that's just been published again with amazing synchronicity on the amazing life of Russell Jack and his dedication to saving the dragons, the different the different dragons that now reside in Bendigo. So, Di and Anita, would you like to share with us something briefly about this story?
Okay. Yes. Look, can I give you a tip? I'm a little bit deaf, and that's why I'm doing this. So if you, but I'll gather you want me to talk about a bit of background to the story. So it's a biography of Russell Jack, who's very well known in the Chinese community, not only in Australia, but in different areas of the Pacific and in Hong Kong. And I tell the story actually that some people in even Bendigo don't really know today, and that is Russell, the story about his ancestry, how his ancestors came over with the Cantonese diaspora, and how at some point in the last century, Russell realised that all of their beautiful artefacts were starting to fade, and their dragons were in great jeopardy. And so this is Russell's biography of how he saved his inheritance and his people's inheritance.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Anita, would you like to say anything?
I think for me, Bendigo was a bit of a, I guess it's hard to get to. It's a little bit secluded in some aspects and has a very dry atmosphere here. And whilst a lot of the diaspora Chinese had these dragon parades, golden dragon parades across the world in California and in Canada and, Australia, as far, Darwin and so forth, it was the climate and I guess the willing and the want to still be Chinese, despite political aspects of Australia's political landscape with the White Australia policy, and coming out and celebrating being Chinese Australians. So in some ways, the part of the story is not unique because of these parades happening around the world, but it's also incredibly unique because it survived, and the artifacts and the stories are all still here today, where you can see the intangible and tangible culture.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anita. And it certainly shows the dimension of water spirits, which is important for binding communities together. Not just the story, but the object itself, the being, in terms of this very extraordinary object that is paraded every Easter in Bendigo, but is the product of so many skilled hands of the ones who make the dragon scales, the feet, the eyes, the head, all of that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, we're very lucky here. We have an intact dragon from the 19th century, the 20th century, and now in the 21st century. So There's no other place in the world where you can see these three golden dragons.
Yes, thank you so much.
And I think the other point I'd like to emphasise is that the dragons, and this is what we say in the biography, I refer to them as a Trojan horse of type, as what the Chinese community has used to have an intersection with the European community, and they have used the dragons historically to communicate with each other. So I think in many ways the dragon comes into his own in that sense.
Indeed. Well, we're glad to give it extra life here. And now we go to Laos, to one of our perennials, Linda McIntosh, who has provided us with a wonderful overview of the Naga. We've had a number of stories from Laos. We're very privileged to have wonderful insights into this culture. And so I invite Linda to share with us a glimpse of your article.
Hello, Sabaidi, everyone. Greetings from Luang Prabang, Laos. My article focuses on, serpent deities, these water spirits, which are Nagas, or Nak, or Payanak in the Lao language, as well as the Ular Naga of the Alarung people located in Alor Regency of East Indonesia. So in Laos and in the region, the Naga or Nox serpent deity has an important role in life. It's like this beginning creation of life, the creation of land, as a protectors, as the bringer of prosperity, the bringer of rain. And in Luang Prabang itself, we have 15 Naga or water serpent deities that protect the land, that who protect the populace. And so they're all named, and they have specific places of domicile. They're either the mouths of rivers, cliffs, or important areas surrounding Luang Prabang itself. And in Alor Regency, generally the water serpents are a invisible being. But with the importation of Chinese ceramics, I know we have, like a material description of these serpent deities or water serpents. So the dragon on Chinese ceramics have been assimilated into Alarung culture to symbolize their guardian spirits, the Ular Naga. Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you so much, Linda, for
Thank you very
sharing that.
much. Yeah, I really
and I-
enjoyed participating.
I note the other articles, such as from Taonet, about Hang Song, and the story from Myanmar by So Yu Nue as well. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce Jumnalal from Mollela in Rajasthan, who I met almost 10 years ago in Ahmedabad, where he brought amazing series of work which was connecting the Naga, the Indian Naga, to the Australian rainbow serpent. So he was making with his own hands the kind of bridge that we've been discussing. Namaste, Jamnalal. How are you?
Fine, sir.
Perhaps you can just show us a little bit of your work. That might be best.
Yeah.
So Jamnalal is host to a number of tribal communities that come to his village, Mollela, to visit the snake temple, which is nearby. And so he makes these plaques for them to express their devotion to the Naga. And this is his workshop. And the snakes have different numbers of heads. These are still to be painted. So this is a rare glimpse into the heart of the story making of a water spirit, the Indian Nag being often connected to water sources. And we have a great article from the Map Academy as well about the various depictions of Naga in Indian culture. And I know Veronica writes very interestingly about this, the way the Naga has changed its position in art from being dominant to being relatively subservient to gods such as Krishna. So it's very interesting to follow. Wow. So the Naga becomes like a canopy over the deities. It only happens in Garland, live action in the studio. You see where it's coming from. It's hard to get more authentic than this.
My son is working.
Namaste.
Namaste.
So Jumnalal is a 17th generation potter.
Yeah. Yes.
Now he's 18th
Generation
generation.
continues. And my wife is working also together, is helping, and granddaughter also.
Wow, big family affair. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Namaste.
Very snake. इसमें snake mother. Snake wife.
Mother, really? Uh-huh.
They're holding snake mother.
I see. That's wonderful.
Yeah, so the tribal people are they buying here and they shrine in temple and they whole life in the protection in life in agriculture and water everywhere the happiness. So they buy every year or some are 5 years. They come here and they here one night is living here and they dancing, singing, eating here and next day will go to back.
I see. Yes, Jimnalal has shared
So-
with me some of the celebrations of the tribals in his house where they come to stay to be pilgrims to the
So
snake
yeah,
temple.
so they
Okay.
some are buying a snake gold, snake, some are another gold. So we are many types of god goddesses. So they shrine in temples also and they happy because sometimes because they saving. Sometimes many rain are coming so wheat like is grain is west. So they prayer to god goddesses and
Oh,
they
right.
settle in temple also.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jimnalal. We have to move on to other people now. But
Okay.
it's been very impressive to share with us your journey. I hope you can stay with us while we listen to others. So, Dhanyavad, thank you very much. Okay,
Welcome, sir. You joined.
thank you.
Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Now we go to Hong Kong to a project that was part of the festival recently in Surabaya, looking at the I'll just get
Yeah.
I'll just
Hi
find
everyone.
where
I'm Lisa.
Evelyn is.
Evelyn is not here. It's
Okay.
today I will share the project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Elisa,
Hi,
anyway, welcome. Would you like to share with us this very interesting story about it's another dimension, which is to do with the kind of mermaid kind of figures and the way in which a story of one of these in Hong Kong has been recovered for contemporary meaning. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. It's our pleasure to share our work here. I'm Alyssa. I'm from Hong Kong, and my collective partner is Evelyn Wen. She's not here yet. Yeah, but our project mainly focus on the Hong Kong mermaids and like how mermaids, pirates, prostitutes, and goddesses. Because when we find these four characters, well, we mainly focus on the mermaid and pirate side in this article because we find that when we talk about Hong Kong mermaids, it's usually represented by the neglected people or marginalized water people. Because as you may all can imagine, Hong Kong is developed city or like you can always imagine like the city side or the metropolitan side. We can always talk about capital and development. But in fact, Hong Kong is also a port city. We focus on exchange and correlations between each island, and the correlation between island and different places has established long ago. So we would like to revive our oceanaric culture and our oceanaric history through this project and through the myths, the legend, the forgotten histories, and these characters, and this especially female characters, because we want to suggest an alternative way of looking in this so-called fast speed world. When we talk about ocean, we always go with the flow, and we really want to suggest another way of living, another way of looking to our city. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Alicia, and you'll keep us in touch with your upcoming performances so that we can let readers know if it's coming somewhere where they can see this remarkable story
Yeah, we just finished another version in Hong Kong this March. We will keep update different performance, and also we present our work in BIPOM in Thailand the 2 days before. So it will be very nice to keep connecting with you guys. And I'm so happy to see different goddesses and different research and the mermaids and different water spirits from all over.
Right. Well, I think you'll find the next one very interesting too, because we go back to England to Imogen Brightmoon, whose work embodies the spirit of the Selkie. Welcome, Imogen. How are you?
Hello. Hi, Kevin. Hi, everyone. Christy Divas. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this edition of Garland. The water spirits theme is very close to my heart. So when I talk about the piece that I wrote, I was invited to introduce the Selkie through my work, so I have this relationship with folklore and my craft, where the two support each other. And in an arts therapy dynamic, between the story and the making of the work is my experience. And I think that as a maker in the service of craft and making, folklore and storytelling has such an important liminal mechanism, so that for me, without the story, I couldn't have made the work. And so I contextualize this here, that the Selkie body of work came out after the birth of my second child. And in our culture, having threshold stories in the West is quite invisible. And yet I found within this particular story for me, I was met with a force of comprehension of the difficulty of my experiences. So I think that folklore has a very much vibrant, lived and immanent energy of facilitating threshold experiences, and I think initiatory experiences that may be invisible. But when you read a story or you encounter a story that has a certain quality to it, or certain motifs or themes, and it matches your experience in a supportive way, it's one of these very uncanny things about storytelling and folklore, is that you don't know the frequency until you've gone through the threshold, and then the story's there to meet you. And it's very hard to describe, but it's a very powerful experience. So my work that came out of that Selkie story has this liminal quality for me. And then how people receive that in their own receptivity or projection has to do with their encountering that energy of that water, that specific water spirit. So I hope that kind of outlines a little bit about how my craft meets my love for folklore, and that it's very useful as a human to have this wisdom to lean back onto when you need it.
Right. Thank you so much, Imogen, which does really touch on a dimension of story making that is quite fresh and new in terms of a relationship between the maker and the audience or the user. And I kind of like how, connecting to Veronica's story, that we're used to seeing English culture, particularly through the V&A, as one that looks to the exotic stories from far cultures in distant lands, but in this issue to see that there is a lot of magic within a country or a region like England as well. So it helps in terms of create an open dialogue. So thank you so much for that. And now we go to Brisbane, which again, with some strange synchronicity, has been suffering a tremendous tropical cyclone of late, and with a lot of the city flooded. And I'm pleased to see, Alicia, that you're above water now. I presume you're in Brisbane, Mianjin, are you?
Yes, that's right, Kevin. No, we were absolutely prepared for the worst and hoped for the best. And Brisbane got through it fairly unscathed compared to some of the regional areas. So we were very lucky.
Good. Well, perhaps you can tell us a bit about the work that comes out of a conversation, well, that is represented here in a conversation with Pamela C. We'll hear from her later.
Yes, and thank you very much for having me in this issue as well. It's been a real privilege to hear everybody's stories so far. So water has become, I suppose, quite a new part of my practice. Speaking about the koi fish that you see there, the fish has been quite symbolic in my work as a paper cutter for nearly 20 years now. I have Japanese Australian heritage, and that's inherently visual within this koi fish kind of design. But previous work has always placed the fish outside of water, either in the air or on the land or other contexts like that, quite symbolic of the kind of displacement that I felt very early on as an artist and trying to find my own source of identity and so forth. But more recently, it has found water as concurrently my family histories have been passed on to me with my grandmother and my mother. And this particular body of work kind of encapsulates that. My Australian grandfather meeting my Japanese grandmother in Japan post-World War II, marrying there, and then coming back to Australia and having my mother. So it kind of celebrates that relationship that came out of war, essentially.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Alicia. And it's a lovely connection there with the work of Alyssa and Evelyn that's coming from Hong Kong too, in terms of how our stories can be interpreted within contemporary biography. Thank
Absolutely.
you so much.
Thank you
for that. And now we go to the Sindh River, to Rajni, I think, is here with Kriti Sharma. Welcome.
Namaste.
Hey.
I'm Dr. Rajni Yadav and myself Kriti Sharma. We are from Gujarat, India, and it is an honor to be here today. In our article, we try to showcase the connection between the Indian culture and nature, how our Indian culture is connected with the nature. We know that Indian heritage is woven with the thread of nature, our river. In this picture, you are able to see that this is the painting, traditional hand-painted textile from the Bihar, Madhubani. So our culture showcase that we are connected to the river, to the tree, to the animal, which are the symbol of divine or the sacred. This relationship just not spiritual, but it is deeply embedded in our mythology, even in our textile also. So different textile from the different part of the India, from the Bihar, from Gujarat, or from the Madhya Pradesh, you are able to see different motifs which are showcasing the fish, lotus, or shell. So our ancestor has shown us that how nature is not separated from us. It is the part of our existence, and their wisdom continue to give us, remind us of our responsibility to protect our world life, our delicate balance of life. Through this article, we hope to highlight how mythology, art, and traditional craft inspire us to safeguard the natural world. Because just like the river which are flowing endlessly, our Indian culture and traditional also continue to guide us toward the harmony with the nature through different art and culture. If you ever visit the Delhi, the capital of India, you must visit or stop by the Horse Cars metro station, where you are able to see the display of very beautiful traditional artwork which celebrate the Indian artifact heritage and deep connection with the nature. And any museum, like Delhi Museum or any museum which is showcasing the traditional textile textile. In all the traditional textile, you are able to see how Indian culture is connected with the nature.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Rajni Yadav and Kriti Sharma. And it's interesting that you connect it to a specific river, the Sindhi River. There's also another story after yours, which looks at the Shandoor Lake as well, and it takes us back to the Taniwha in New Zealand, which is identified with specific waterways that these beings help us appreciate the water that is part of our locale. Thank you so much. And now we go back to Mianjin, Brisbane, and I invite Mei Ling or Pamela C, who plumbed the depths, literally, to talk to us about work made in the water. Would you like to take us on a journey to the Wonder Reef, Pamela?
Thank you, Kevin. I don't think Dr. Daniel Templeman is here, is he, with us today? Unfortunately, this is actually artwork about, a story about his amazing artwork, which was designed with a number of specialists, especially for marine life. And so many of you from all over the world might be familiar with the Great Barrier Reef, but unfortunately, particularly since the mid-1990s, it's been in significant decline. And so in Australia, there have been a number of artificial reefs built. He actually answered a call that was in, I believe, the newspaper for an artist to help design this. It's 32,000 cubic meters of sculpture of reef, kind of like an apartment block for fish, I guess. And it's just behind Surfers Paradise. There are 9 flutes, so they're made out of steel, which you might notice the surface of. They've allowed it to naturally corrode because it becomes food for kelp, and they've transplanted a lot of coral from surrounding reefs on there to stimulate its growth. But the kelp itself, the seagrass, came from the floor, around 30 meters deep. And so the species that live there now are, they include batfish and sea slugs and lionfish, giant groupers, even some eagle rays, amazing sea life that you can see when you visit there. So that's actually me. My family, my father's family are from Putian, which is, it's kind of coastal, I guess, in Fujian province, and they worship their Matsu, a goddess of the sea. So often, if my family friends have mentioned that you are seafaring people, so that's how because China is so big, I'm sure that other people here can concur that we have very many distinct cultures there. And so my father's heritage we basically moved here. It was chosen because of the fish, the affection that they had for them. So it's just I'm really honored. Thank you, Kevin, for allowing me to write about, I think, this really quite outstanding artwork. Daniel's somebody who I've watched develop over a number of decades now, and I think his work's extraordinary, and he primarily builds his work by hand. His father was a carpenter. I mean, the smaller pieces, obviously a large team was involved in building these enormous structures, and he tries to foster awareness in viewers about space, light, and time, and ultimately, I think, factoring in the way that we move around the objects, and they're almost always in monumental scale. And now the fish, and when we swim through these beautiful objects, they also allow us to consider our perceptions of reality as well. And I'm so sorry that Daniel couldn't come today.
Well, I'm very pleased that you could speak to it, and also for taking us in a different direction, not just looking at the water spirits, but seeing it from their perspective as well, literally, in terms of this amazing artwork. So thank you so much, Pamela.
Thank you.
Now, lastly, we go to Letitia Shen, who is a recipient of the Garland Prize for a storied object, innovative storied object, for a series of work that she writes about in this issue, which isn't necessarily directly to do with water spirits, but it's part of the overall interest we have in storied objects. And this one's a very poignant one about what's happening to the sort of material heritage of Shanghai. So thank you, Letitia. Would you like to tell us about your story?
Yes, thank you. Hello, 你好
Ni hao.
and 侬好. My article is about cherishing the traditional Chinese custom of throwing lower baby teeth onto the roof and upper ones under the bed to blast the glows of healthy permanent teeth. So from last year, I learned that my childhood home in Shanghai, which is a Shikumen house, would be demolished in a few years. This news brought back memories of my grandma pulling out my baby teeth using a string and remind me of this tradition. So I realized my home was just as fragile as those teeth. Once a force push against them, they just fell. And Shikumen architecture is a fusion of Jiangnan style and British style, emerging in 19th century. However, today, about 17% of the 9,000 Shikumen have been demolished due to poor living conditions and safety concerns. So I just wonder, how can our children still throw their baby teeth onto the roof in today, like where skyscrapers replace the shot house? So reflecting on the loss of both tradition and home, I create this series of 4 works representing 4 stages of the demolish.
Thank
And
you. Go on.
yeah, similarly, Fade Away also explore childhood nostalgia and loss. I created toys my grandma gave me every Chinese New Year, turning them into rings. Like these rings can spin or produce sound, but they can never fully function, reminding us that no matter how much we long for the past, we can never truly return to it. Yeah.
It's wonderful, really wonderful. And, we have a strong community of readers in China, and no doubt they'll be very interested to read yours as well as those of us around the rest of the world too. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Shen. And just before we close, I want to briefly reference the work from Nigeria. Unfortunately, Emmanuel couldn't be with us, but we're looking to have a very strong African focus in this series, and we're very pleased to see that he was able to share a story about a Yoruba goddess who is very much connected to the river in this particular community. And this festival has been revived recently, as you can tell from all of the smartphones, looking at the various rituals attached to it. And there's a lot of music and dance and so on, as well as various objects that are used as offerings to the deity of this water goddess. And we look forward to more stories as well from Africa, because clearly African folklore is incredibly rich, and one that is very much alive today in the culture of festivals, ceremonies, masquerades, and so on. So I'm really pleased that we could have that as well. Well, we're coming towards the end of this launch, and I'm wondering if anyone had anything that they would like to say, or some observation about a connection, or something you think is missing from this particular launch. Any thoughts about the overall story of it? Does anyone have anything to offer?
Can I just say, Kevin, that Fiona Davies.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Can I just say, Kevin, that I really appreciate how effective a Zoom meeting can be at connecting such a wide range of people. And that even though we all really value in real life meetings, I think there is, COVID has really taught us that there is a great need and use for meeting over the internet. And so thank you for keeping that format up.
Right. Well, yes, very much drawing on the generosity and skill and dedication of the works that are shared.
Yeah.
Hopefully providing a space which continues to be an authentic one, an organic one. It's not trying to push a product or anything like that. It's very much based on our sense that we are custodians of these stories, and we want to do something to keep them alive in some way. That's part of what we're here for. Okay. All right. Well, as the custom in these things has become the Zoom ritual, I invite you to be part of a screenshot to commemorate this issue, this first issue of Storylines. If you've got your camera off, you might want to turn it on. I'll just count down. If you want to put on a nice Zoom face together, that would be great. I'll count down. 1, 2, 3. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And